All right, so
Am I beautiful?
you look great.
Okay.
And we're very, very appreciative that we're in your house here.
Give a
You're actually a quite amazing house. All right, so what you're going to see is every now and then this is going to turn around. I'm just going to get started. Hey, what's up, guys? So we got someone here talking about the dome. Am I allowed to use your real name here?
You do whatever you want to do, yes.
All right, so basically what's comfortable with you. So we're here with Tom, and Tom has graciously invited me into his very cool home here in an undisclosed location, because I know that we don't want to tell people where he lives. But he's the first person to come forward about the Seton Park Dome. Yes, yes. So, Tom, thank you very much. And first of all, super cool place. I'm very jealous.
Yeah, as a drummer, I imagine that.
Is this a soundproof room?
There is no such thing as soundproof,
Yeah,
right? It helps a little bit. My wife doesn't scream as much. No, it cuts down.
But this is amazing. And plus, you're not playing drum set here.
It's just as loud.
But man, I would love a room like this.
I don't know what I would have done throughout my life without this, because I can always come down here and bang my heart out, get away from my wife, scream, yell. It's
so,
you know.
So before we get into the dome, of course, so are you a Riverdale, or are you from Riverdale?
I was born downtown. Spent the first 3 or 4 years downtown. Moved up to Riverdale, I think 56, 57, somewhere around there.
So you were born what year?
53.
53. So by the time the dome came around, you weren't a teenager. You were
no,
older.
I was there in the 20s.
You were in your 20s.
I don't remember what year. 50, 73, 75 was the dome.
And when did you? Well, it's tough to pin down, because I think some of these books actually talk about maybe 72.
75.
Let me look at the date of this book. So everybody, what we're looking at here, of course, is The Dome People, and of course it's by Ruth Rhea Howell. And Ruth Rhea Howell, of course, comes into our story because of Alfred Hunt Howell. And I'm just getting Tom up to speed on the Alfred Hunt Howell story. Yeah, so this has kind of been an ongoing video series, Tom, where like I'm going on these tangents, and I'm obsessed with the dome, and I want to find out about it. So did you live? It says 1974 here. Text Ruth Rhea Howell, 1974.
Minutes of meeting. It has to be 73, because I have a town meeting in 73 of July.
Wait, so you have files? Files.
I have papers.
Oh, yes.
I have the papers.
Oh, yes.
Let's see. That's the minutes of a town meeting.
When was the last time anyone ever asked you about this?
When was the last time I looked at it?
Yeah.
This was a play that was done at the Dome.
Was it called Pieces?
It could have been. I don't remember.
All right, well,
I have...
can you make scans of this stuff for me?
Yeah, you can...
Or maybe I can borrow it and bring it back overnight.
You can do that too, yeah.
If you're cool with that. I'll bring it back as soon as... Oh, my... Oh, whoa, what's this? Okay, so...
Well, that was basically a pit, which was a Pizer in training.
You were a Pizer in training, so...
Right. I was like a social work guy, and Pizer was the social worker, and I was the... construction supervisor there, so I wasn't just a regular little kiddie there. I was actually employed by the Riverdale Neighborhood House as sort of like a youth worker, construction worker.
Now, but you were a Riverdalian too?
Yes.
And where did what part of Riverdale did you grow up in? Here?
I grew up right over the hill where the Whitehall is now.
Oh, really? Where exactly, if you don't mind?
Right in the middle of the Whitehall. Right next to the Whitehall. In fact, when I got my motorcycle, I immediately drove it around where the Whitehall was not yet, and stuck a construction steel bar through my clutch into my transmission.
Oh my God.
Having my motorcycle, you know, within an hour, and I was always, I want a motorcycle, I want a motorcycle. So I finally got a motorcycle, destroyed it in an hour, and somebody from the Dome, who is a guy named Roy Cole, who's now got a motorcycle shop in California. Everybody at the Dome got together, got enough money for the parts, they gave it to Roy, and Roy fixed my bike without me knowing. So it was a pretty freaking...
Wow. Wait, so do you have pictures of that area before the Whitehall went in?
Do I have pictures? No. It was just woods.
Wow.
It was just woods. I used to go play there with my brothers, and we used to get free plastic airplanes and stuff because the junkies would have to buy airplanes to get the glue. So in order to sniff glue, they had to buy a plastic boat or an airplane or something. They'd throw the boat away and sniff glue, and my brothers and I would go grab the airplanes, if you can.
Wait, so now you're bringing me into an interesting thing. So
You
now
were
everyone thinks about Riverdale as this hoity-toity neighborhood where everybody was perfect, upper class. All I'm hearing about this era is junkies, wastoids, people hanging out at the monument, all drugged out on acid and LSD. Tell us about what was going on.
It was a lot of fun. Those were great days. Here I have that play that you talked about. This is a This is a list of the people in
Pieces?
that play where you said everybody was running around dancing.
Well, that's the thing. I think I was in that dome, of course. I was only 4 years old by the time it was torn down.
Possible. So yeah, drugs and I mean, you know, those were the days, and we would be smoking every day, and they say pot's stronger now, which I don't believe for a second, but there was some great pot around then, tie sticks.
And what age group are you talking about here?
I think that would have been about 75, so I would have been about 22. These people were in high school, some junior high school kids. Pizer had a class of people that got thrown out of class for something, and I had 8 or 10 of them in a subspecies, and some are still around. So they were younger. I was a little bit older. I was professional and didn't mess with them. But yeah, there were a lot of pot. There were, I remember at the Dome. Is it Richie Weiss or something?
Richie Stein, the architect?
No. Him, obviously, I know. No, a different Richie. And a bunch of them who were doing heroin, and they'd come into the Dome and be like, and like, I didn't know whether to call the ambulance or like, wake up, don't die here.
All right, but Tom, you know what? We're getting to the end point. I want to find out a little bit. We're already talking about drugged out debauchery, which is great, but what was the Dome? What was, so you were...
Initially?
Yeah, talk about the beginnings of this place and the story of how it came to be and all that stuff, and then we'll kind of
ease into... Had to be 71, because I was in college for the first couple of months. But initially, Pizer, going back to Pizer, who is a youth worker, really interesting guy who passed away a few years ago. He's a really cool guy.
And how did you get to know Pizer?
I had grown up, I'd done judo, I taught judo at the Riverdale neighborhood house, so somehow I was still involved with the neighborhood house. He worked there as a youth worker, because at the time, it's not now, but there'd be like hundreds of kids hanging out on Johnson Avenue, and one half would be hanging out by, I'm trying to think of where the bank is on, across.
I know it all. I grew up on 238th right there, so I remember that from the late 70s on.
There's a whole group, and those were basically Jewish pot smokers from 141.
Okay.
And then by down the corner where that corner store is, it's always going vacant because
the luncheonette was there.
Right. And Friedlander owns it, and everybody just drives everybody out of there.
The rent, right.
At any rate, on that corner, all the Irish kids who went to St. Gabe's were there, and they were all drinking. And at one point, all the Irish kids started smoking, and all the Jewish kids started drinking, and everybody was happy.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
because I've always heard that in my day, the Irish kids from 141, they were rough kids.
They weren't from 141, they were St. Gabe's.
I mean, from St. Gabe's, they were rough kids.
Oh, they were? I got my ass kicked.
I heard that there was a lot of heroin happening in St. Gabe's.
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge.
I never heard of it. I had friends that went there.
Okay.
I wound up, sorry folks, but I went to Barnard, which is now part of Horseman. A lot of rich Jewish kids. I couldn't stand them. It was just too snotty. So I wound up hanging out with the Irish guys. So that's where
this is very interesting. All right, so there's a lot of places we can go with this. And by the way, I'm not going to air this in full. I'm going to cut it up.
Do what you want.
And if you say anything that you want edited out, you tell me, and we'll discuss that before airing, okay? So I want you to be free.
There were so many kids hanging out at the time that the neighborhood house bought a social worker, teen worker, somebody to work with all the kids there. There aren't any kids anymore.
Now, why did they want to work with the kids? What was the purpose?
I guess cars were getting broken into, and they realized that there was a need for something, because all these kids were hanging out all night, drinking, doing drugs, and I guess the neighborhood house, or I don't know who from there, I think Ruth Seglin was the director at the time. But they wound up hiring Pizer Edelsack to work with the kids, and he would hang out on the kids, with the kids on Jansen Avenue, and sort of use me to introduce. Also, Alphonse Gavilla, I think he knew.
He sent me he sent me a response on Facebook.
He was kind of involved on a, I don't know whether exactly he worked for the neighborhood house, but so Pizer was introduced from all the kids by me and Alphonse. And
so you meet Pizer through, you're just hanging out in the Riverdale neighborhood mouse milieu. Would that be fair to say?
I don't remember how I got hired at neighborhood house.
Okay.
I just don't.
But you were there, and then Pizer comes in. Now, where did Pizer
No,
come
I was
from?
hired to work sort of with Pizer, as I
Pizer.
recall. Yeah.
And where did Pizer come from? Because was he a Riverdalian?
No, I know he worked. He worked in India. He was in the Peace Corps. He's a really cool guy. Very cool.
But where
guy.
did he come from?
I don't remember.
He wouldn't talk about that? No one asked him?
I have no memory. I'm bipolar. 50 years of psychotropic medication.
All right, understood. So, all right, so then the Riverdale neighborhood house, what I read was they decided to corral a bunch of kids who were hanging out at the monument, and then that's how the Dome project started. Is that true?
That too. There were some at the monument.
So basically it was just neighborhood druggies that were focused in on by Riverdale Neighborhood House to start this project, and then so you were brought in specifically to build the Dome.
Right. I was in college, and everybody was dying in college from overdoses and crashing their cars. So I went to school in I graduated in 71 September, so I went to school in late fall of 71. So it had to have been by December or maybe that spring of 72 that I started working with them to, again, work with kids. And I wasn't much older than the kids.
Kids, right. And so, all right, so then how does the idea of a dome come out?
That's all Pizer and Richard Steiner, who you really started to hold of.
I worked for him. I wrote for the Riverdale Press for,
okay.
for a very brief period,
Okay.
but I know Richie.
Okay.
And Buddy.
Okay.
And I know he was the architect. So do you know how the two of them hooked up?
How Pizer
And Stein hooked up?
No. I don't know how Richie got involved into the project. There was another architect that signed off for the plan. It wasn't Richie, it was somebody else. I forgot his name. A neighborhood well-to-do architect, I think.
Denny Dennison?
Yes, right. That's correct. So he signed off on it. I really don't know, because that was before me getting involved. I got involved, I think, after they had already put the post in, after I had dropped out of college, because everybody was dying in college, and I dropped out of college in 71. It got to have been 71.
But how did you then end up at the Riverdale Neighborhood House?
I don't remember what my as I told you, I used to work at the neighborhood house
As a
judo instructor.
Okay.
But that goes back years.
So you were just in that milieu and ended up getting a job working with
My
Pizer.
mom was involved too. She might have hooked me up. I don't. I was hanging out on the street, so Pizer just might have said, "Hey, you want a job?" It goes back too far for me to recall.
So, all right, so talk to us then about the Dome, like about starting it, the project. You know, how were these drugged out kids as workers? Was it a triumph in the end? Was it a success? What ended up? You know, let's talk about the Dome and its history and its demise.
The whole thing was an absolute joy, and still is, for probably hundreds of kids that some who still get a hold of me on Facebook and say, "Hey man, do you remember me?" And I'm like, "I don't remember shit." But there's a few people that I do remember, and the sense of community that, regardless of drugs and everything else, all these kids were hanging out together. We still have this connection and this affinity and sort of this love for each other that we don't have with other people. And it has something to do with being I taught a chimp sign language for clients. So I'm into like language and language acquisition and stuff. But when you grow up with somebody, it's much different than meeting them when you're an adult. When you have whites go up here and Puerto Ricans go and black people and they meet when they're 21 and nobody knows each other's culture and there can be issues. When they all grow up together, there aren't issues. Mm-hmm. I've seen photographs of a bear, a lion, and a tiger that all grew up together because they...
Oh yeah, you see that on the internet now all the time with these amazing videos of animals that are cohabitating and showing love to each other.
And normally would eat each other up,
right.
are loving each other. So I think it all has to do with growing up and your youth and going through something together. There was like people that go into army, people in the police have this like bond, and
right.
and people from the Dome have that same bond. There's still people I talk on Facebook that I haven't seen in 50 years, and
right.
I'll talk to, and it was such an incredible time for the people there. We built the structure. There are hundreds of kids that would come whenever they want.
So it was like a revolving door. Whoever was there that day worked.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there'd be a few regulars that would be there all the time.
Right.
And other people would show up at night. It was dark. Everybody would hang out. Nobody was smoking or doing right there because I kind of like put a quash on that, as I recall.
Now, did you do that because the neighborhood was watching and because people were watching, or was there really an ethos of like, let's get these kids off drugs?
It wasn't so matter of let's. I mean, even now, my shrink just said, "Hey, look, next time we meet, can you not smoke the day before?" So I picked up a pipe and said, "Are you fucking kidding me? You think me not smoking the day before will have any effect on this?" So it's not so much about getting people off drugs, because people aren't going to like that. If you say stop drinking milk or don't eat coconuts anymore or something, you just want to give people the opportunity for doing other things that might be a little bit more healthy, or just to hang out somewhere and rather than being somewhere else doing something, you're hanging out on a couch in a dome that you built, listening to music or working on a play, and you don't really have the need for doing substances, or maybe even to do them before you come in.
Well, that's what I was going to say, but it's so much more fun to build things on weed. So, like, what was really happening? Were these kids all drugged out right there?
Not to my recollection.
All right.
Because we were all on ropes climbing off a thing, and
that's true.
I was the biggest pothead and still am, and I don't remember drug use being a problem in the construction.
It was relegated to after hours. Like I heard there was a tent on site, and people would sleep there.
Yeah, but that was sort of before my time, because we had all these tools there. And
who slept there? Who slept during the construction period?
I hope specifically.
Yeah.
You should get a hold of Ishel Grunbaum. She's on Facebook.
Okay.
She wound up, funny because I'm a big reggae person. She wound up being a reggae person. Moved out to California.
Oh wow. Okay.
Her brother was around then. Billy. He's no longer with us. She's still, like I said, she's still on Facebook. I'm sure she could fill you in on a lot of stuff that I can't.
And she slept there. Was there like a hierarchy? Like you slept there if you were...
That was a little bit before my time, I think. I don't believe so. It was just like, hey, Mom said I could sleep out, so what the fuck? I'll sleep here. It's sure a lot more fun than being home with Mom and Dad.
Right. Now I'm talking about the construction period, before it was erected. Okay.
Right. I don't think anybody really slept there after it was erected. They slept there because there were tools and stuff, and I don't think they wanted to stolen. So
Right, of course.
I think that was a major reason.
So what blows my mind about this is that the Riverdale I grew up in was, I mean, we're one generation apart. You were born in, what would you say, 52?
Yeah, 53.
53. I was born in 73, so we're exactly one generation apart. My Riverdale was the Riverdale of the 80s and the 90s, and yours was the 60s and 70s. And it's such a different Riverdale.
Completely.
I mean, we had druggies, but it wasn't rampant on the streets like it was in the early 70s. And these were upper class kids, middle class kids, or were these gangster kids in Riverdale?
It's all.
And these were baby boomers. In other words, there were just so many kids around.
And there was a lot of substances around too.
What happened in the Riverdale woods? What was going on in the Riverdale woods in those years?
In the woods?
Yeah,
What do you
like down more by the river. I heard there were caves there.
Yeah, caves?
I heard that in those years there were like places where people
There
could
might
go.
be a cave in Manhattan
That one I know of, yeah.
But I've never heard of any over here. They used to party right by the river, right by Wave Hill. At the bottom of Wave Hill, there was a land. There used to be some big parties going on there.
Uh-huh.
A little bit older than me. I think it was more of a North Riverdale crowd. Lots
Right.
of drinking. I didn't spend too much time there.
I mean, I know this is a crazy, but just reminding me of my Son of Sam days. Were there any devil worshippers hanging out in the? Not in this part of the.
Although I was accused of being one at once.
Really? Who?
That's kind of an offshoot. As I said, I'm bipolar. I was having a manic episode, and I went to Texas to visit my chimpanzee friend over here.
Okay.
This is a picture of him and I smoking pot. I used to work for Columbia University, and we used to go out in the bush and have a puff or two, and that made it to the 5th anniversary of High Times, which is over here, right below there.
This one?
No, that's Damian Morley. This one, it's on that.
Oh
that
wow,
issue.
you have all the old issues.
I'm an old man.
Wow.
So I forgot where we were going with this.
I did. I did too, actually. I did too. Devil worship.
Audition work. So anyway, I'm having a manic episode. I'm saying, fuck all you. I'm going down to Dallas and visit my friend, the chimpanzee. So I get on a plane. I don't know how I got to the airport. I think I had $20 in my pocket. I mean, I don't know if you know anything about mania, but it's out there. It's like doing LSD. You know,
Wow.
I'm out there. I get to Dallas. Before I get to Dallas, I'm smoking pot on the plane. The guy next to me says he's the exhibit manager for IBM. I was building exhibits for the time, and I'm like, oh, cool, I can... And he knew I was nuts because he had just had me. And anyway, I'm smoking. The waitress comes back. Waitress, that's what I called her. The stewardess came back and said, you sit there, you don't move until the plane stops. So I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
Everybody gets off the plane. I get off the plane. Boom! Cops grab me. They're going through me. They strip search me. I'm going, oh, God. They put me in a cell. In my briefcase, I had a half an ounce of pot, a book on the Quran, a book on the Rastafari, the Bible. Because I'm manic. I'm going through all this religious stuff and shit. And they're like, are you part of a satanic cult, boy? So that's the
And what
answer.
year was that? Was that in the 60s or 70s?
Oh, I was
70s.
later than that.
Later than that?
Yeah.
Wow, all right.
90s.
All right. 90s, whoa, okay. So, all right, let's get back to the dome. All right, so
Okay.
you have all these kids building it, and what was the stated purpose of the dome? Like, what was going to happen to the structure?
It was intended to be something for the kids to do. I think it had to be during the summer, so I don't know. And after it got completed, it was supposed to be a youth facility where people could hang out, so they wouldn't have to hang out on Johnson and go like this to all the rich kids going by, you know.
Right.
Get rid of the kids, get them off Johnson Avenue, and stick them over in Seton Park where they wouldn't bother anybody. And the issue was, sorry, Rich, and everybody who designed it, but they didn't do such a great job because the way it was built is they took plywood panels and they cut them in hand on diagonal, and they put and they fiberglassed it, and they made triangles.
Right.
So each triangle got put there to a hub, and the hub was then fiberglassed over. And what happened with the hot and the cold and the fiberglass, which was hard, it cracked, it opened, it cracked, and the leaks were never, you could never stop the leaks. So then I said, all right, we're going to put tar. So I don't remember what we put, but we're going to put some gunk.
Right.
And we're going to gunk over the whole thing. And they gunked over the whole thing. And we never got a C of O. And I don't remember, I remember smoking pot in the...
Wait, you never got a C of O? Because
No.
there's pictures in this
No.
book here of the meetings happening in there.
Yeah, well, we just went in there. There was no big deal at the time.
There seems to be, like, because there's a picture in here of like a what looks like a formal meeting right here. This picture right here. It looks like, in fact, it looks like Jeffrey Dinowitz is talking.
Oh, that's very possible. I don't know what Dinowitz was here, but no, that was the, I think that was the play. Yeah,
But
that
without a
was the play.
C of O?
Yeah. We were working without a C of O. Back then, you know, don't do it. Call the ambulance if anything happens.
Right, right.
No, there was no C of O because we never had a bathroom installed. I remember smoking pot in the, what do you call it? The bathroom goes into a big concrete box that gets buried. I forgot what you call it.
Septic tank.
Septic tank, yeah. So we used to get high in the septic tank.
Ooh.
Well, it was completely unused.
Oh, it was unused.
It was brand new. It never got hooked up. So,
Why would you need to go to the septic tank when you had the dome? Or
well,
the woods?
you kind of like leave the dome kind of alone, you know. You wouldn't
Right.
want to cause anything there. And because it's pretty cool to say you got high in a septic tank. you
Right,
know,
right.
that.
So, all right, so then no C of O. It's just kind of open. What year did it finally get built? And then the first people just started coming into it to use it. Like, what year was that? Do you remember?
No. I think it started in 71 or 2 because I left college in 71, and I think I did that. I might be able to figure it out at some point if I go through some of the other papers.
Right. I want to see all the papers you have. I'm
Okay,
really,
you
really curious.
wanna-
Now, yeah, I might as well take a look at them now. I could ask you about them.
I'll sit next to you.
Now, the question I have is, I have several questions. So what was the genesis of this place? It opens up, and what kind of cliques formed? What happened to eventually cause it to tear down several years later?
I'm sure that there were cliques. I don't recall who and what. Again, this goes back a while. Well, here, there you go. Minutes of the town meeting, July 73. So the dome was up around then.
The town meeting decided to set up a committee which would function. Subcommittee, town meeting, closing the dome. It seems like the dome was already built by this point.
Yeah, it was.
It was?
Yeah. Here's a good thing to hang.
Let me see.
You know, in the theater, the play that we put on there. Here. The dome. I'll get him later. It exists for those who are willing to make a
Hold on,
commitment.
before-
Okay.
I was just passing through your place. Figure you guys popped right in my head, so I popped you a phone call. Hope you guys are doing good. Don't be strangers. Do me a favor. Give me a call back anytime. All right? Hope you guys are good. And it's about, let me see, 240. And it's about 65 degrees, 60 degrees down here. And I'm just thinking about you guys. Hope you guys are well.
My wife's cousin.
Cool.
Here's some good people that were around then. Rita Sklar, Mark Goldstein, he passed. Jane Wells, Eric Friedman, I don't remember, Peggy Epstein, Karen Freed, Dean Lingatis, he's still around on the West Coast.
Cool.
Jeanette Berger, I don't remember, Bobby Brown, Gene Mincy, Lauren Lieberman, David Santner, he's still around, he's on Facebook.
Cool.
Gus Andre, I don't remember Gus, Bob Lieberman, and me. But this is a good thing you ran. I think they talked about the theater that exists.
This seems like some sort of mission statement right
Yeah,
here.
that's a good. It's a good thing for
A
what
theater
we do.
exists. All right, cool. So I want to actually be able to scan all this stuff.
Yeah,
we don't have to go through
okay.
every word now.
Right.
I'm going to weave it all into a more edited show.
This is the cast of that play that went on there.
Let me see. The Live Adventures of Will Robin, a new play by Michael Shapiro, produced by the Dome Theater and Riverdale Neighborhood House.
And here, this is the actual New York Times article.
Wow. This is the one I have. I have a copy of this from online. I definitely want a copy of that.
You can take all this stuff and copy it at home at your leisure. This is a newsletter. Mark Goldstein, who is no longer with him. Sharp is no longer with us. God, everybody's dead.
This is a newsletter specifically from the Dome?
From the Dome, but I don't know. It doesn't have a date.
That's awesome. What's that?
This, I think, is that same statement there. Karen Freed. Karen is still on Facebook. Karen Freed, I don't remember her married name. Oh. Boy. Shit, look at this.
What's this? I can't see.
It's a big
Another
newsletter
letter.
that I haven't even...
Ooh, Undercurrents. Wow. Were the Stein brothers involved at all in this publication? These publications?
No. No.
Well, I know Richie was the architect. How was Buddy involved?
Buddy wasn't so much... I don't remember him being really involved.
Yeah. He doesn't seem like that type.
No, he was with the press, but Richie was still with the press, but he was also he was a good friend of Pizer.
Right.
And
I'm still curious about how Pizer ends up in Riverdale. Who was he?
He was hired by Neighborhood House. I think to be a youth worker.
All right, so just to...
Now, this is cool. This is March of '73.
That's awesome.
And this is a letter to the principal of 141, who was my principal at 141 20 years before. The following students of 140 no longer attend the Community Affairs Seminar conducted by Gus, Thomas Martin, and Parker Adelsack. These students are Matt, I don't remember if he's still around, Kenny Glazer, Regina Collins, Susie Hirschke. Susie I still talk to, she's on Facebook.
Okay.
Winnie Torres, Susie, Dorothy, Richard, and David. These students have been participating in the Spole rap group as part of the larger seminar. At any rate, that's kind of cool. So I was sort of an adjunct professor at 141.
I don't get it. It says these will no longer attend the
Right, I
community.
think they canceled it.
Why did they cancel it?
Oh, God. I don't know.
So wait, the Riverdale. All right, I don't understand. The Riverdale Neighborhood House was running these community affair things.
Yeah, they were like an adjunct. For some reason, I don't remember why these kids didn't go to regular class. They got thrown out of class or something happened, and Pizer took over the kids, or had a class for these kids
At Riverdale Neighborhood House.
No, I think it was. I don't even remember where we met. No, it was at 141.
It was a special room at 141
Yeah.
that the Riverdale Neighborhood House ran, is what you're
Right.
saying.
The teachers, like me, went there. I was a part of this rap group because wherever they were before, they got tossed from. I don't remember why I wound up or why Pizer had these kids. But it was a rap group, so we talked about whatever we want. I can do that.
But it says here, it was operating outside the boundaries and limitations of a community-oriented discussion. That
Right.
sounds like some bad shit was going
I was a
on.
bad boy.
In what way?
We talked about stuff that we shouldn't talk about, I guess.
Was it sanctioned by the Riverdale Neighborhood House, or were you told to talk about that by the Riverdale Neighborhood House?
They were probably unhappy with what we were discussing.
But the Riverdale Neighborhood House didn't instruct you to talk to these kids about this. You were acting on your own.
Yeah, they said, like, have a rap group. I said, okay, we'll have a rap group. And they were like, wait a second, you can't talk about that.
Okay.
That's my recollection.
All right.
It will be hard to...
And so this came from Riverdale Neighborhood House. They decided to end
Pizer
this.
wrote that letter. Because Pizer worked for the Neighborhood House. So he's writing that letter to 141 saying, hey, we're not working with your kids anymore. Do something else with them.
This is very, very cool. All right. Now, what's this?
Something about the construction of the door or dome panels.
Does not look very neat. No wonder the place ended up as a leak fest.
You can't, the whole fiberglass ain't...
It ain't gonna work.
No.
So these look like more of those mission statement type things. So what's this?
You're sitting
All
in
dance and direction proposed done by Iris Khan.
Oh, here we go. You're sitting in a geodesic dome. This building is sponsored by the Riverdale Neighborhood House and was built completely by young people from the community and is now operated by young people along with staff from the Riverdale Neighborhood House as a community center. We welcome you and hope that your evening in this dome it will be a joyous one and that it will return soon. And yes, all that happened without a CFO.
So you were running plays in there, no CFO.
There's no toilet in there.
No toilet. You had the woods outside. Leaked.
Yeah.
So how long before the dome ended up becoming anarchic, like uncontrollable? Like what?
I don't recall. It was up there. I believe it was boarded up because it didn't have a CFO and it leaked and there was nobody to be in there to staff it.
Right.
So you had an empty building, which is not a good idea.
Right.
In any way.
Right.
And it was torn down. I don't remember when or how much after.
But did it become just like a haven for local druggies, even though it was supposed to?
It was never really a haven for local druggies.
It never was.
No, I mean, how do you define a druggie? I mean, these were.
Well, I'm talking like the.
I mean,
well, no, you know what I mean. Like I'm not trying to be like that, but the whole point was that it took these. You said heroin addicts off the streets of Johnson Avenue and the Monument, but did it just then redirect them there? Like
pretty much so. Instead of hanging out, nodding out in the street, you could nod out at the dome.
And what was Pizer Edelsack's thoughts through all this? Was he very anti-drug? What was his deal? Let me see what that is.
Pizer's pretty cool. I think he was more like, it's not going to do me any good to tell you what not to do.
Right. Right, I get that. So he just kind of benign tolerance.
Right. Oh, this is construction stuff that had to be done. This is more construction stuff.
Wow. Wow, this is very cool. Bathroom, lay 9x9 tile floors.
I wish all the stuff had been dated. There's more construction stuff that had to be done.
It has been over a year since the actual building was begun. There have been several crises and several final pushes to affect its completion. The dome is not completed. It will never be. It is a dynamic and evolving concept. Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Here's our police contact.
Sergeant Wynn. Now, why'd you need a police contact, just in case?
Well, I remember I almost crashed into a police car once, but I came flying out of the area and almost crashed into a car, and the cops were like, what are you doing? You didn't...
So do you have any pictures of the dome from those years?
Other than that one, no.
So, all right. The one
Here, you can take this for.
I would love to. What I'll do is I'm gonna scan it all and I'm gonna bring it back to you by tomorrow. Okay?
Okay,
I don't
no
want
rush.
you to feel
Do
like
you-
I'm
do you
gonna
think-
take it for
No, I haven't looked at that, and
because this is very cool.
it's very cool for me and it's very cool for you. But I didn't think there was one other fucking person in the world that gave a shit. So
I'm gonna have my audience very into this story. They're just, I don't know. I'm taking them along for this weird ride of Riverdale, and
it was a wonderful, wonderful. It was more than an event. It really affected a lot of people for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, still people will go back and go, that was the best time of my life. There was a community. There's no community now.
well, that's for damn sure. But the question that I have, I want to just pinpoint what you're talking about. Are you talking about the building of it, like the construction period time that people are talking how great it was, or when it was in use as some sort of a rap center where you were
Didn't matter. It kind of flowed from one to the other.
right? Okay.
And I don't think it was used as a rap center for all that long. A year.
So what ended up becoming of, like, after a year's time, what happened to the dome? Like, did people lose interest in it and kind of fade away, and then did vagrants take over? Like, what happened to the structure as the years went on?
I don't remember when it was torn down, but, you know, like I said, never got a C of O, so it was sort of, I don't know whether the buildings department said cut it out, or Alphonse, if you get a hold of him,
I'm
might have-
trying.
I can get him, except I got thrown off of Facebook, but I'll get a hold of Alphonse.
Is he angry at you?
No.
Because, yeah, I need to get in touch with this guy. I want to interview him. He just won't respond to my messages.
Really?
I don't know why. Maybe because
good guy.
I'm not coming at this from the perspective of, like, let's find out about this idyllic place where children were allowed to express themselves. I'm interested in this place as, like, this weird haven that ended up becoming from what I heard in the neighborhood, a place that just turned into this drugged out, debauched place.
Yeah, that should not be the takeaway.
That's not the takeaway.
Over the thing.
Okay.
A lot of long-lasting friendships were made there. There was a sense of community that was there that sure isn't there anymore.
That's for sure.
People were taking drugs all around the country. To pick on these kids is kind of silly.
Right. So the Riverdale Neighborhood House then channeled these kids into just building this thing. And maybe at the end of the day, it sounded like that was the reasons for its existence, not even what happened afterwards. Because to not get a C of O and to build it in such a way where it was going to fall apart in a few years and it was leaking, it doesn't sound like they were very serious about building a real structure. It sounded like, to me, I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, Tom, but it sounds like the process was the point of it all, not the end result.
I think that there are two things. Yeah, that was the point. That certainly kept kids busy, not doing whatever they may have done for another month. So even if it was just building the dome, that's fine, just in of its own.
Right.
You know, and to have a youth center, that's even better. It just never became that youth center. So even if it, that happened, that's certainly not a reason to, poo-poo the whole thing.
Right, right.
It was a really great time for a lot of people, and many of them used drugs.
Right.
But everybody used drugs. Back then.
I just had the wrong impression from the few stories I've heard about this place. I
mean, there's no way I was going to let somebody on heroin be climbing up a 2x4 to nail it. That.
I've never spoken to anybody involved in this place in the construction. You're the first person, and in the organization of it. So you're the first person, and I'm kind of interested in this Riverdale Neighborhood House because it was started by the Dodge family. Are you aware of who the Dodge family was? The Dodge Mining Company?
Rich people who have stuff in Fieldston or still have property.
By the estate, no, by the river. And Howell was married to a Dodge.
Right.
This guy, Howell. Did you ever see these real heavy elite rich people in Riverdale Neighborhood House? Did they mingle with the kids?
No.
They didn't.
My mom liked to mingle them at the Riverdale Yacht Club. That's where they would do their mingling.
That's where
there.
they would mingle.
Yeah.
Did any of these elitists ever come to the Dome? And
No, they would go to their board of directors meetings and feel whatever they feel.
right? Was
I'm
there any
trying-
ever reports of any crimes happening, sexual abuse, rape, anything that happened in that place? I mean, I told you I was here to cover it all.
No.
No. There was never any instances where, like, I don't want to malign anybody, but
No, you
like
go-
Kaiser Edelsack was never involved with the children or in any way
No.
untoward?
No.
All right, because I'm just wondering about this place. Like, why? Like, I guess it was just of its time. It was just a place that was built in a neighborhood, and there was just a lot of counterculture people around still.
Pizer, passed away a few years ago. His wife is, I don't have a phone number. I was going to get, I just looked it up. I'd see if I had a number for her. I don't. But she would also be a good person to talk to.
I would love to.
Hillary, Pizer and Hillary, Pizer. And certainly Rich and Hillary and Pizer and Susan.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get that track of my brain working.
Right. Well, the last time I spoke to Richie was when I worked for the press, which was 2007. I worked there for only 6 months.
I worked there too for about 2 days.
Yeah, I couldn't stand being in the newsroom, and I just felt that the Riverdale Press wasn't so much a news organization as just I don't know. I mean, they wrote some news, but it was mainly an advertisement for Wave Hill and for New York Botanical Gardens, and it just seemed heavily involved with the elite of Riverdale, like the Dodge people in the Riverdale neighborhood house. Did you ever meet Ruth Rhea Howell, the lady who wrote that
I didn't know
book?
who she is. When the book came out, I'm going, who the hell is she? I don't know what she had to do with the Dome. No idea.
She was a heavy patron of the Riverdale neighborhood house, so her money, I'm sure, had something to do with the Dome.
I don't think she took the pictures. I think either.
Arlene Strong took the pictures.
No, that rings a bell.
Yeah, that's who's in the front cover. It says text by Ruth Rhea Howell.
Arlene Strong rings a bell.
So do you have your copy of the
Yeah.
of the thing? I just want to get maybe some. We'll look at some of these pictures and tell us a little bit about each picture. Not every picture, but like, some of the ones that stand out to you.
Hey, here's a cool picture. It's not the one.
Oh yeah, all right. Damian Marley.
Nope, Ziggy.
Ziggy Marley. Who's the guy over on the right?
That's my friend Steve Bloom from the neighborhood, who wound up being High Times
Oh wow.
editor. And the Mueller report.
No thanks.
You ever read that?
Nah.
Man, Trump was guilty from the first paragraph. He was like, where the hell is my book?
It doesn't matter. Let's. You could just look at. We'll just go through it here. I'll just pick a
Well, it
couple.
kind of makes me wonder what the hell happened to my book.
I paid like $40 for this copy.
Wow! Where did my little book go? Oh well, it's somewhere.
It's all right. It's all right. We have a lot of, actually, quite a bit of what you talked about. I can just intersperse. I'm not going to put this whole thing on up.
Yeah,
I'm gonna cut it up into, because
This is your job. You do it.
yeah, I'm cutting it up, and what I'll do is I'll intersperse these pictures. I'll just scan some of these photos. Are you in this book?
Yeah,
Oh, where?
that's Michelle. I don't know. I'd have to go find me.
All right, you're gonna find you. Here, go through it.
Yeah, those were the tents. See, that was sort of a little bit before my time.
What do you mean before your time? Because you said you were involved in it right from the start.
No. I think I was at college, and I dropped out of college and I went there.
Okay.
I'm not sure what year, but I was not involved in this part here. I think this is about when I started. Also, Kevin Tierney is on Facebook. You might want to get a hold of him. He may be able to give you...
Interesting. I wonder if he's related to the detective that went to the Howell house. That would be
I don't
something.
think so.
Because that was Detective Tierney. Probably not.
That might be Kevin.
Might be. So you came in the middle of construction.
I came in somewhere around here after the... I don't think I was around for the floorboards. And this is the open, you know, people would... open up the
fire hydrant.
fire hydrant, and the only person I recognize is Michelle. See, this is about my time. That's Kevin. And that's how the 2x4s would have these metal things attached to them and then clip and onto the circular struts there. I'm pretty sure we had to take it down once or twice to get it up properly.
Yeah, it says that in the book, that you originally made some errors here and had to
There's
redo
Michelle.
it.
Hey, where's Michelle? Where's Michelle? That's a good picture.
What did the local people in the neighborhood think of this? Were they bothered by the construction?
Not that I recall. Well, it's right across from a park.
But you have that big white building.
Yeah, that's a block away.
And you didn't work at night. Well, actually,
No.
you did work at night.
Yeah,
But no one seemed to
I
care.
don't think we did anything at night.
That's a great picture.
I know I have a great picture here, and you can't tell it's me. I think that's Pizer.
This right here.
Yeah. See, Michelle's everywhere. What a picture hog she is. Yeah, I was around. I think that's me. I think that's me.
Oops. Hold on.
Yeah, I wish I had my ponytail. I miss my ponytail.
So that's you right there?
Yeah, on the left. And here.
Right here.
Yeah. I think so. That, I believe, is Pizer up there. And that,
Yeah, he was all over the construction of this.
And that might be me, but I can't tell. That's my brother-in-law, Victor. Chop, as he's known.
The one that just called?
No. He passed away a couple years ago. Fall and winter. Oh, okay, now we... Yeah, we started... Oh, yeah. We tried to insulate it, and we got sheets of styrofoam and put the styrofoam up there. And yeah, I remember we had that metal door. That is possible that it's me. That's, I think, Mark Barron. That look like me?
Let me see. Yes.
No.
That's cool. That's awesome.
There's a picture of that. That was the night of the play, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the play. And once again, Michelle. Michelle's freaking everywhere.
She's everywhere. That's pissing me off.
It's Mark Barron. Who that is? That's probably Kevin Tierney.
All right, good. So we basically got what I wanted. I wanted to find out a little
Okay.
bit about the genesis, the origin of this place, the kind of the feeling of building it, and just the way, just its life cycle, like its beginning and then its end.
Yeah, dates are
Yeah.
or bad. I don't know.
No, we got good stuff.